Julys are usually dominated by ridging, and that will be the case for for this year as well, with a lot of ridging happening in the upper Midwest this weekend and through much of next week before it begins to break down, collapse later next week, and then the week after July. There'll probably be a ridge in the United States somewhere, but that looks to be further south. That will give us a pretty active pattern for severe weather with almost daily chances of thunderstorms as well that we will be taking a deep dive into the extreme heat ahead, but going to focus on the training complexes of thunderstorms on the edge of a ridge. It is called the Ring of Fire pattern. This is a look at the mid-level heights that can show the ridging developing, and then the blue is troughing that is happening. Now these darker reds, orange colors is showing the strengthening ridge into the upper Midwest and into southern Canada this weekend, and then as we move into early next week, the strong ridge will expand over all of the upper Midwest as well. Yeah, this is a pretty expansive ridge that is taking place through the middle of next week. This is the next Tuesday. You can see the ridge begins to expand a bit more, and that will allow it to start to weaken over time. But as it expands, it covers even a larger area of a ridge into the entire Corn Belt region up into southern Canada. And then as we head into the middle of next week, this ridge continues to weaken and it will begin to shift south as well. With this weaker ridge in place on the ensembles, as we do later next week, this is going to allow for all these complexes of thunderstorms to move along this northwest flow over the Midwest. As you can see, the ridge at this point by next Friday, according to this ensemble, will be placed much further west into the Mountain West area. This is a pretty classic ridge placement for these northwest flow complexes of thunderstorms that usually are pretty long lived as well. As we get to next weekend, you can see this ridge is pretty stationary. By next Saturday, next weekend, whatever, this ridge continues to stay into the western portions of the United States, with some troughing showing up on the in the eastern portions, showing because of the blue colors showing. This is a pretty distinct northwest flow, and if it's winter time, this would allow for winter storms to take place into the northeast. But obviously, it is July after all, and with this belt that I will show soon in the video, this belt of mid-level winds would be coming down over here like this, and then this will put the Midwest in the crosshairs for them daily thunderstorm chances and fast-moving complexes of thunderstorms. As we continue into the week after next week, this is getting pretty far out, but it shows a lot less ridging overall, but it continues that northwest flow component through that week after next week. Actually does bring back some ridging into the southwest portions of the United States. So it seems that we'll be dealing with a lot of northwest flow over the next 2 weeks or so. This usually brings a lower chance of tornadoes, but as I've said a lot before, an increase in complexes of thunderstorms that usually produces widespread swaths of damaging wind gusts through the Corn Belt region and maybe further east into the northeast somehow. But I cover the Midwest only, really. So this is what I talk about the most of the time, and usually this time of year, the complexes tend to move over the Corn Belt because you even have higher dew points as well, usually, than a lot of other places in this area. And this again, usually on the northeast edge of a ridge, that's typically where you get these complexes to take place. And so far, what I've been seeing from over the several days, it seems like the Midwest, right through the center of the Midwest, will likely be on the edge of this ridge. That'll make these complexes happen over the next 2 weeks, next 2 weeks or so. I'm probably going to continue through the rest of July, maybe even into early August. We're going to be dealing with this northwest flow type of pattern. It's a pretty common pattern this time of year. I don't really see us getting into a different type of pattern for a while. Taking a look at the high temperatures for next Wednesday, this will include next Monday and Thursday. We can see actual temperatures will be well into the 90s, even close to 100 degrees at times through the Corn Belt area. but must quarter on the very northern edge of this ridge because you can get them complexes to happen way up there. But even so, the lows early to middle next week will only be in the mid 70s. That is very warm, even for July standards for lows, and this will obviously bring not much relief into the overnight hours for the warm temperatures. I'm taking a look at the dew points. Again, pretty dry, low levels compared to usually for July standards through early to middle next week, with dew points only hovering in the 50s and 60s. So it won't be as humid as it can be this time of year, but even just some humidity will push some heat index values well into the hundreds, or well, close to 110 degrees. With even the temperatures will be close to 100 degrees. So even with low humidity, a little bit, even some humidity and temperatures in the 90s will still be enough to be considered extreme heat. And I would assume there will be extreme heat headlines being issued from the National Weather Service as we get to this weekend and into early next week. Ensembles continue to slowly increase the precipitation chances as we head into the middle and end of July, showing the 5-day mean, 7-day means are slowly starting to get less dry. Now next week continues to look compared to normal. Compared to normal, it looks pretty dry overall, with below average precipitation into much of the all of the Midwest at this point for all of next week. But as we get into the week after next week, we start seeing the ensembles are starting to get wetter and wetter, especially into the Corn Belt region because of that ring of fire type of pattern that'll be on the northeast portions of the ridge. So definitely looks like a focus point will be into the Corn Belt region for all these complexes to happen once we get to the end of next week and the week after next week. So I do think we do have a pretty wet second half of July coming with quite a bit of severe weather activity as well. Mainly probably in the forms of damaging wind events, but there can also be chances of tornadoes this time of year still, even in these type of northwest flow events. But some areas will be pretty dry through the end of July. But I think about at least half the region will experience quite a bit of rainfall next week and into the through the end of July. But again, if you miss these complexes, then just you're lucky because others won't miss them. Another thing for next week, because of the drier pattern, with the ridging being further north, we're going to have lower dew points, and lower dew points mean a less unstable atmosphere. This is a look at Cape values as we get into early next week, and I mean, compared to usually happening in July, there's not much Cape around for early to middle next week. We're usually into the 3,000, 4,000, 5,000, extreme values of Cape range, but the atmosphere won't be that unstable next week, even though it's gonna be very hot outside because of the lower dew points. But as we get into the end of next week, you can see start seeing an increase in dew points again, and we start seeing that increase in Cape values as we get into next weekend. But especially the week after next week, we're gonna have a lot more Cape to work with because of the lot higher dew points. This is obviously the week after next week. This is gonna change a lot. What's just showing you as this ridge breaks down later next week, the atmosphere will get back to on the severe weather side. So the next 5 to 7 days will be pretty dry overall, but after that, it's gonna get a lot wetter. One last thing before we wrap this one up, but today, so looking at today and now in the future, there will be chances of thunderstorms scattered to, you can say, almost widespread thunderstorms into southern Iowa and into Missouri and portions of Illinois as well. But isolated thunderstorms are expected pretty much elsewhere into the Midwest. Taking a little bit more wider look in the Midwest, you can see just very isolated thunderstorms maybe in the upper Midwest, but a little more widespread thunderstorms further south into Iowa, Missouri, and Illinois. There's some chances for severe weather as well, but mainly going to be south of like I-70 southward. So pretty much in an area that I don't really cover much. So non-severe, expected at least, non-severe thunderstorms this afternoon and evening through these areas.